advantage of the opportunity. But right now is about right now.
The Plan B, Ohio State Buckeyes!
Give everything you got in your heart to this place.
Hello, welcome back to Rushing the Field, presented by Xfinity. He's Joshua Perry. I'm Nicole Auerbach. Week 11 is in the books, well, almost in the books, because we always do record this. There's still some action happening. It was a day of scares in the Big Ten.
Yes, and as we've said, winning's at a premium this year.
It
right?
is.
Like, you just have to feel good getting a win sometimes.
And I'm sure Indiana does. I mean, Chris Signetti was very emotional after that comeback win over Penn State.
Did you see what he said in the post-game press conference? He said it was an improbable win.
Interesting.
That's how he described it. Yeah.
Well, it did take a lot.
It did.
To get all the way back in that game. Like, this was a Penn State team that wanted to prove a point. He came very close to winning a game over against a top 5 opponent.
Well, the internet would have been going
For
crazy
the first time since 2016 without James Franklin.
Right.
But yeah, so Penn State, I mean, was clearly, especially in the second half, like playing with a ton of energy, physicality, especially on the defensive side. They go down, they go ahead with late in the fourth quarter. And then Fernando Mendoza had that drive at the end. It starts with a sack, so then it's essentially second and long from Indiana's own 13. They go all the way down the field. They have this incredible touchdown catch at the end with Omar Cooper Jr., play of the year, incredible toe tap.
No doubt.
Like, I actually still don't understand how he got the right toe down when the other one was gravity was pulling his other foot down first. It was crazy.
These young men right now are on a physical level that is different than anything I've seen. Proprioception, look that word up. Like, they practice being able to feel where they're at in space without necessarily knowing. And
so they can do this with their limbs a little bit better than we have any idea.
It's essentially like being able to tap your toe with your eyes closed because they can't see it anyway. It's insane.
All right. So let's talk about the final drive.
Yes.
Indiana winning this game, beating a Penn State team that is stuck at 3 wins, but has a lot of NFL talent. These were the types of opponents that Indiana last year struggled with, right? They struggled against Ohio State and Notre Dame when they played teams that had more talent, had guys that are going to play on Sundays. Fernando Mendoza also had a Heisman moment on that final drive. You had those 2 crazy catches down the end of that game to set up the game-winning touchdown. Before you criticize and push back at the narrative about the Heisman, Fernando Mendoza is the odds. He's leading the odds now in the Heisman. I do want you to tell me what you make of this team and the ability to win a game like that, because they've been blowing everybody out. We hadn't seen them with their back against the wall like this.
So I think it was big for me to see them win a game like that because of the point that you made. And it's really the second time that they've done it, because they did it against Iowa too.
That's true.
Where it's not the big blowout, but again, it's like, can you replicate that? Is that something you can do when necessary? Use this as an example, but Alabama's been very comfortable this year winning 1-score games, right? That's a big skill, as we talked about. Winning's at a premium. So for them to go into an environment where the crowd certainly got back into that game when things got sticky for Indiana, and to find the plays that they needed to, offensively, obviously, with that last drive, but even on defense, where they gave up 17 straight points.
And it looked easy. The way that Penn State was moving the ball. Nick Singleton was doing things we hadn't seen from him all season.
All year. But then they found ways to make critical plays toward the end of the game on that side of the ball too. So for me, I think it told a lot about that team and the grit and the resolve and the fact that we have to take them seriously. And we've been saying that for a while, but this was kind of the things didn't go our way today, and we're still going to find a way to win.
Yeah, and so now they have wins in 3 of the tougher environments in the country.
Yes.
At Autzen, at Kinnick, and at Beaver Stadium. And again, all of those games are against future NFL pros as well. So we learned something about Indiana. Now, a lot of people are really leaning into Fernando Mendoza as the Heisman favorite, and I think he is. It changes week to week. I mean, like we talked about Julian Sayin last week. Ty Simpson is there. I feel like it is going to come down to conference championship weekend, which is right before the ballots are due. But you're not ready to anoint Fernando the favorite.
What he did today doesn't change my perception of him in the Heisman race. I don't think any less of him. I don't think any more of him, even with that last drive. You mentioned Julian Sayin after last week. This man, Julian Sayin, had more touchdown passes than incompletions in that game, right? Like the totality of that game was sheer dominance from him. I look at the totality of this game, And you can make an argument that some of what happened was Fernando Mendoza not necessarily playing well. It was
Bad
an average
pick.
stat line,
Bad
right?
pick.
Yes, but it was 63%, not a bad day, 218, not gaudy numbers. He had a touchdown, he had an interception, he ran one in. Like, it was a good day, but I'm not looking at this and saying, like, oh man, like he's the top guy after watching that performance. By the way, the 2 catches that we mentioned were phenomenal. And the one down the sideline, great ball placement, but still had to be a great catch. The catch of the year, it's a circus catch. So he got lifted there by some of his teammates. And the last thing I will say, because I've been looking into this, Penn State, 6 losses. 4 of the losses, they held a lead under 2 minutes. This is a team that just can't close. And so how am I going to give Fernando Mendoza more credit for what he did when Penn State has just lost like this 4 out of the 6 times that they have lost?
These are valid points. And you said this earlier in the night, like he kind of put them in a position to have to come back because of the interception, which they got a touchdown off of.
Right.
These are valid things. I will say that Heisman voters love Heisman moments. They love game-winning drives, and that's where this is picking up. But I still think the race is really wide open.
It's super open.
November 8th.
It's phenomenal. And I will say this too, right? Stories matter in this.
Do.
Indiana, not the big brand. Fernando Mendoza just pops onto the scene for folks who weren't watching Cal last year.
Yes.
And they're going up against Penn State. And regardless of how bad Penn State is this year, it's still at Penn State. Like, people are going to think about it differently than maybe some of the other performances we see on a week-to-week basis.
And I think that's also why Julian Sayin got such a bump from beating Penn State.
No doubt. No doubt.
Again, they
now, also, 20 for 23, 4 touchdowns.
I agree, but it matters to play and beat Penn State
I'm with
still.
you.
Because there still is a lot of talent. There are other very interesting results. I want to go to Big 12 country. This was supposed to be the game of the day.
It was.
Texas Tech,
Did
BYU.
not
It did not. It was not close. It was, what was it, 29-7?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
The 29 threw me off. It's a weird score.
It's a very weird score.
BYU is not in this game at all. It was completely under control by Texas Tech the entire time. Ugly at times as well, but that's what Texas Tech's pass rushers do. It's a good thing if you're Texas Tech, and this is where you spent all your money on the front 7, and people are arguing about which of your defenders actually deserve to be in the Heisman race as a defensive player.
I mean, Bailey, Rodriguez, like, you take
They
your
would
pick.
give each other. They get asked this, right? And they're like, oh, you mean Bailey? You mean, Jacob Rodriguez?
Yeah.
No, but they're both been phenomenal.
They have. And you mentioned it, right? It shows up in their ability to attack quarterbacks as rushers. They're also dominant when it comes to stopping the run. This was not a good day for BYU running the football, and that's a part of what they want to be in terms of their DNA. They had 67 yards on the ground, 2.5 per carry. Those are not great numbers there. And so, to your point, they spent the money where I think it matters the most in college football, which is along the lines of scrimmage.
And it worked.
It has paid off for them. And now we're kind of doing this thing again where it's like, okay, they have the one blemish on their resume, but week in and week out, you're like, okay, they get the offense that they need. Might not be great. We have the conversation about when the field gets short and not scoring touchdowns. They've been able to get enough, and that defense is really, really good. Yeah,
so the one cause for concern is that the drives stall out, right? So they are 110th in college football, in FBS, a touchdown rate in the red zone. So that means they are settling for field goals all the time.
Not great.
That is something to watch with Texas Tech, although they are now very well positioned for the college football playoff.
Yes.
The Big 12, though, this is where it gets a little challenging for them trying to get 2 teams in.
Right.
Now, obviously, you knew someone was going to lose this game, and these were both teams that would be in the bracket based on the first committee rankings. But it was the way that BYU lost.
Right.
That's where I think that they're going to get, like, you weren't even close. You weren't even in this game. This is going to be a problem. You still have Utah, which the committee likes. They had them above all of the ACC teams last week. But BYU has a win over Utah.
So this is the scenario that becomes interesting for the Big 12 to me, is you get the Texas Tech BYU rematch in the conference championship game, and BYU gets blown out again. But Utah wins out, and now does the committee like them enough as an at-large?
And the head-to-head doesn't come into play at that
Exactly,
point.
because of the second
I think
loss.
that's one way to do it.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a narrow path now for the
Very.
Big 12 to get to.
It's threading a needle.
It is.
Yeah.
The ACC, on the other hand, that looks like a one-bid league, and we'll see. We're doing this during the primetime games,
we'll
which like
talk
all
about
of the ACC teams are in and struggling.
Yeah.
Virginia's losing. Louisville's about to be losing
Yeah,
again.
they
so
came back, tied
we'll
it
get
up.
to that when we get to our
Yes.
in-progress games. I also wanted to get your thoughts on the other close call in Big Ten country, which is Oregon. Oregon had to beat Iowa on a game-winning field goal. That was like in a monsoon the entire game. Mark Gronowski rushed for the lead and almost got it, and then they failed on the 2-point conversion, and then Oregon kicked the field goal to win it. Interesting game, and I think you picked this as your underdog pick, which congratulations.
Thank you. I'm back on the board.
One of them hit.
Oh boy.
But I just think that like the things that we expected Iowa to show up showed up.
Yes, and in a lot of ways. I think the one thing that didn't show up for Iowa, unfortunately, was the run defense. They just weren't stout against the run, and that's where Oregon really created the edge because they couldn't throw the damn ball all day long. I mean, they had a drive going in. They threw an interception, right? Like it was not a great day for Dante Moore and company.
No DeCorian Moore.
Right, and Kenyon Sadiq as well, the tight end.
He played, but he was
limited. Right,
Yep.
So like they were banged up. It was a gritty type of performance. Their pass game couldn't come alive, but Oregon made the decision, we're going to run the football, and Iowa forgot how to tackle in a lot of instances. But the major concern that I had for Oregon is going to Kinnick, very difficult. And Iowa just has this like mystique about them where they'll make you play the ugly game along with them. Right, and like that's the thing that gets you in trouble, especially when you have to go there.
Yeah, there were a couple un-Iowa things that happened this game too, like allowing a safety, like giving up a safety right out of the gate. That's not usually how they play either. So it was a result that, again, you thought could happen. But I think it does give people a little concern about Oregon. I mean, they've got some big games down the stretch, and I'm not sure they're going to beat both USC and Washington.
The pass game over Oregon's last couple of games, like back to Wisconsin, just has not been what we anticipated it would be when we were talking about Dante Moore as a Heisman.
Yeah, so it just feels like their top end is a little bit, what is it?
The top end is a team that can be in the playoffs. I don't think that this is how we saw Oregon last year. This is not the same thing. I don't think they're a team where I'm like they can win a title right now.
I think that's fair, and I think getting to the playoff will take a lot for the Ducks over the stretch run of the season. We'll continue to track on them. More interesting results coming up. Elsewhere in college football, some interesting results in the SEC. So let's run through them. Texas A&M 38, Missouri 17. Didn't really feel close at any point in this game.
No, it didn't. And the thing that we have come to the conclusion with Texas A&M, and you and I have talked about this, Chris Sims has brought this up numerous times, they're comfortable winning different styles of games where they can stretch out a lead. That's perfectly fine. They've won low-scoring games. They've won high-scoring games. And I think that's a positive because you meet different styles of football when you get into the postseason. Marcel Reed has become one of the more intriguing figures in my mind because he's got this arm that's ridiculous and he can make these crazy explosive throws, and we see what he does with his legs. But you look at the efficiency numbers, and in particular when he's playing top defenses, he's not completing a ton of passes. He's just hitting home runs, right? He's the guy who doesn't have singles in baseball. He's just a home run hitter. Do you feel like that maybe runs out a little bit?
Well, but we wondered that all season, right? And so then they win games. You don't know
until you know.
I know, and then they win games in different ways, or different receivers become the recipient of the home run ball. I mean, I think that I trust this team. I think that, out of the SEC, like it's them and Alabama.
Sure.
Georgia, actually, we'll get to them in a second, but they kind of had a complete
trust
game.
Meter's up on them.
The trust meter is, but they had a complete game for the first time in a while. But A&M, I mean, again, I think Mike Elko is steady, so I trust the leadership. The defense, again, they've given up a lot of points in some games, but I still generally trust them in the way that they are approaching things, making the stops when they need to. And then I'm with you on the offense. So this just feels like these are the types of games that A&M, when they would fall apart and somehow go 8-4 after a promising start, like this would be a game they lose.
It's such an interesting thing, though, because I think you and I we're seeing the same things out of this A&M team. And I think we're seeing it right now as it's a positive that they can win different ways.
Yeah, could be a problem.
Other people might say they're a high-variance team that I don't trust because sometimes they give up the big play on defense and sometimes their offense isn't very efficient. It's a weird thing to try to figure out. But I'm with you. I think I tend to trust them right now more than I want to doubt some of the variance in their game.
And I think in the SEC, which as a league has high variance, that will come into play. Other results elsewhere, Georgia, as I mentioned, complete game. First half, this team showed up. 41, Mississippi State 21. And this felt like maybe a turning point for Georgia?
A little bit. And I think the one thing that a lot of people who are still going to be Georgia critics will talk about is that defense just doesn't feel like it did a couple years ago.
Well, it's nowhere near that.
It's not.
And that's why, I think so much, there is a lot of pressure in the offense because, again, in a lot of these times where they've needed the second half comebacks or a fourth quarter comeback,
right.
It's all on Gunnar Stockton to do it.
And that's the difference for me is Gunnar Stockton played a very good game, 264 yards, 63% completion, 3 passing touchdowns, didn't get sacked. But they ran for 303 yards in the game, right? Like that to me is where Georgia's like, okay, I can look at them and say, start to trust you a little bit more. You're starting to do the things that maybe you did in the past when it came to owning the line of scrimmage, at least offensively, when you needed to. And the flip side of that, to credit their defense, 3 sacks, 6 TFLs, they have struggled to create negative plays this year, and they were able to do it in this matchup.
Also, Mississippi State has played a lot of other SEC teams very closely.
So
this was a notable result. Vanderbilt 45, Auburn 38 in overtime. This was Auburn's first game after Hugh Freeze was fired. Cam Coleman felt like he got unleashed a little bit.
Yeah,
he had actually the second best toe tap of the day.
It was very good.
But really, the story, of course, is Vanderbilt staying alive in the college football playoff race. It was dicey, but Diego Pavia finishes 25 of 33 for 377 yards, 3 pass touchdowns, 18 carries for 112 yards, and a rushing
You think
touchdown.
he's going to New York?
Broadcast did. I feel, how you were talking about stories? I feel like Diego Pavia's story and him being the face of this 2-year turnaround for Vanderbilt could certainly be enough. And again, that stat line does it.
I know.
When he played Missouri, he did not have the stat line.
He doesn't do it against great teams is my biggest criticism.
Yeah, but again, just to get to New York and a year where it's wide open, I think he could do it.
Oh, I think there's a high likelihood because he does have these types of games. And to your point, I do think the story is very intriguing, right? He's a guy who had no FBS offers. People weren't looking at him. He's not prototypically built to be a successful quarterback, and he just goes out there and finds ways to make gritty plays.
And think about how many players are true household names.
Yeah.
Feels like he is there.
I know. There's still this part of me where it's I want to see your best in the biggest games, and also are you one of the best players? And I feel like there are a number of guys that I would put, Jeremiah should go in front of Diego. Jeremiah Smith.
Who's going to get credit for Ohio State's
success? That's part of the question.
But
I look at Jeremiah Smith and I'm he is a better player, and it's really difficult to guard him. But Diego probably has a little bit more going in terms of his ability to be the flash guy because he's the guy at Vanderbilt.
Right, and I think there's something about this is Vanderbilt, the punching bag of the SEC.
Thing.
Yeah, the story does matter.
It's intriguing.
The moments matter as well.
Yeah, big moments.
And they're gonna have Tennessee in the finale. Everyone will be watching that.
That could be the one that would
against the big boys, right?
And if he doesn't have a good game there, it's kind of that would be the separator.
They're kind of the ones because again, I do tend to think that the Heisman Trophy winner is playing in the Big Ten or the SEC championship game.
Right.
And that weekend will determine that.
Yeah.
But he is one that will be outside of that could at least definitely get to New York.
Yes.
But I factor in, I guess, to the race.
It's an interesting thing.
Another interesting result outside of SEC country, a Friday night. Craziness in the American,
what
as
is the
usual.
American doing?
It's like a revolving doors or what's you sit on the chairs and musical chairs.
Yeah,
for
musical
everyone.
chairs.
Yeah, somebody's short and has nowhere to sit.
Just pull the chair out.
Yeah, each week. It depends. Tulane 38, Memphis 32. So Memphis was the team that we penciled in and put in the bracket for the first rankings, right?
Sure
They were
did.
not ranked, but the committee told us they would have been the highest ranked group of 5 champion. Well, now I think we're talking USF and then Tulane probably.
Yeah.
But because this really comes down to who is going to play for the American championship, because you need to be in the game and you need to win the game. And then you need to be ranked ahead of JMU or San Diego State or whoever.
So the JMU San Diego State thing it keeps popping into my mind because the way the American's looking right now is do we think the committee could take a team out of that conference that maybe has 2 or 3 losses?
I mean, maybe.
And they're definitively better than JMU.
It's really hard to know because none of them were ranked in the committee's rankings.
I know.
So we actually have no sense of was it San Diego State?
They should
or somebody
release
else? The five conferences?
They should release until they get to whoever that is. I want to see all of the teams and where the separators are.
So the committee, the way that it works, because I've done the mock, is you go through it, and if there isn't one, then you go through the champions of the 5 leagues and rank them. They could put that out.
That's what I would love to see.
Yeah.
I want to know.
Well, they don't like transparency.
Well, I know they don't,
that's
but
separate.
I'm very curious personally, but I get it.
Time for helmet stickers. Floor is yours.
All right, I'm going to go with one of my guys who has had a struggle the last couple years. That's Luke Fickell. Earlier in the week, it was confirmed that he would be back for 26, and then he follows that up with his first ranked win at Wisconsin against Washington, which is huge for them. Listen, they limited Washington to 251 total yards, physically punished them, and this was an ugly game in a lot of ways for Wisconsin still, but it felt like Wisconsin football from the standpoint of you run it 47 times and you're beating people up. And so it's good to see them at least have a little bit of joy this year. They rushed the field at Camp Randall, so it's a good scene for the Badgers. 2
days after they announced Luke Fickell's back, too, they finally get, this was the thing we talked about all last year. We had a lot of Wisconsin games. Can they beat a ranked team? And they finally do it. So that was kind of crazy with the timing.
Now some Wisconsin fans are probably like, dang it.
Well, they wanted a coaching change. Nope, but now there's some positive momentum.
Yeah.
My helmet sticker goes to Charlie Becker, Indiana receiver. So you mentioned that Fernando Mendoza was helped along the way on the game-winning drive. Charlie Becker had the catch on the sideline. Great throw, great catch. That set up the eventual touchdown. Let me tell you this, too. So Elijah Surratt was out of this game. He has been Fernando's favorite target.
Yes.
And then obviously Omar Cooper Jr. The two of them have been phenomenal. On the season, before Saturday, Charlie Becker, 7 catches for 157 yards and 1 touchdown.
What did he do today?
7 catches for 118 yards. And again, the play that set up the game-winning touchdown.
So Chris does this thing, Chris Sims, where he's like, I still don't know if Indiana has the talent, if they have the guys. We watch Ohio State do this, where one wide receiver is out and then another guy just emerges. Again, Penn State, say what you want about them, but this is them showing that they do have a little bit more depth than maybe people realize.
And in big moments
as
well.
Yes.
All right, as we wrap things up in the Saturday night show, there is a lot of action still underway. We'll get to the mess in the ACC in just a second. Alabama is up 17-3 on LSU. LSU is driving. What do you make of this game? This is our first chance of seeing LSU after Brian Kelly was fired, but also, again, an Alabama team that we like, and we think Ty Simpson is really, really, really good.
No, I mean, Ty Simpson is phenomenal, and he shows it even on plays where it's an incompletion. You're like, damn, that guy is really good. I think their defense has looked very physical in this game against LSU, which is kind of they don't dominate on the line of scrimmage, but they've been trying to punish in this one. My biggest concern, and I will continue to say it, can you run the damn ball when you need to? And this is again
sometimes
a game
yes,
where they're just
and sometimes no for them.
They're really just not doing it right now. And it's that question of
they are over 200 pass yards. They just started.
Yeah, I know, and that's what they do. They throw it around the yard, and it might not matter. But do you ever get into a matchup, maybe in the playoffs, where you have to run the ball?
Right. I mean, that's the question with them. So we will. LSU is going backwards.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Is that punishing defense that they're playing?
I want to talk about the ACC before we go, and this is a tough conversation to have because right now Virginia is trailing Wake Forest, and Louisville is trailing Cal.
Yeah.
And Chandler Morris, by the way, also got knocked out of the game for Virginia. We're talking about a one-bid league.
100%.
So Virginia is in the placeholder right now as we sit here until they might lose. They're not in the top 12, so they're basically a bid thief.
Yes.
Because they're going to bump somebody out who is ranked that high as an at-large. I am concerned. I mean, this is a league. Anybody can beat anybody in any given week, and it just feels like the wheels are kind of off on a lot of these teams.
100% the wheels are off. I'm curious to see what the rankings look like if both Virginia and Louisville lose.
How far they fall.
Yes, and then, Miami, the door is back open. Georgia Tech, you feel like the one that intrigues me the most is Pitt. in their path. If they win out, like
They got
that's
Notre Dame soon.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like Notre Dame's out of the mix now. Pitt's in it. That's the one that really could open some eyes about the ACC.
And again, just to cover ourselves, if Virginia and Louisville come back or whatever, I don't like gain confidence in them.
No.
They have both played in ugly games, close games. Virginia has lived in close games all year.
Even watching Miami, like they do this thing where they love to start slow and then just kind of build their way into dominating a team that they should dominate from the jump. Like none of these teams make me feel inspired.
What if Miami backs into the playoff? They could do it.
Yeah, I would not be happy. I'll just leave it at that.
We'll wrap things up with the results from Saturday night in the midweek episode. This is Rushing the Field, presented by Xfinity. Thanks for hanging.